Good evening. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Leap Spirits. Not only did September bring the start of football season, but for fans of Leap Spirits and the Green Bay Packers, there's also another reason to celebrate, and that's Packers legend and Leap Spirits co-founder Leroy Butler being an NFL Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and Dane, to commemorate this special occasion and gear up for football season, Leap Spirits created a Hall of Fame limited edition bottle featuring Leroy. This special edition bottle comes with the same great recipe distilled from Midwest corn, incorporating a proprietary coconut filtering process that provides vibrant fragrance and flavor. Not only is it a must-have in any Packers fans' home bars as we gear up for football season, when it's gone, the bottle will make the perfect addition to your memorabilia collection.
Wags. I'll tell you what, Leap Vodka has been recognized for excellence by industry experts from coast to coast and was recently awarded Wisconsin's Vodka of the Year. So, to find Leap Vodka and Leap and Lemonade in retail store or restaurant anywhere in Wisconsin, visit leapspirits.com and click on Find Leap Vodka. See show notes for details.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
Good evening. Welcome to Lombardi's Legends podcast. I am Wags, and joining me as always is Dane. Here on a Thursday evening, we are set to preview Week 4 showdown against the New England Patriots. They're coming to Lambeau. And Dane, how are you feeling this evening as we get set for Week 4 already of the NFL season?
Wags, where does the time go? Already talking about Week 4 football. I'm feeling pretty good. Packers are 2-1. And, a little bit of more home cooking is never a bad thing. So excited for the Packers to, take on a New England team that's a little bit different than maybe the ones we're used to seeing growing up. Sure, Bill Belichick's still there, but Tom Brady ain't there anymore. We saw that guy last week, took care of him. So now Belichick and the rest of this crew comes over to Lambeau Field. But I'm feeling really good tonight, Wags, and I'm really optimistic, excited to talk a little Patriots matchup. And it's a matchup, Wags. I'm curious your take on the outset. I'm feeling pretty good right now going into this game. Belichick is an all-time great, but Matt LaFleur has won an awful lot of regular season games over the last few years, and I think the Packers are coming in with a little wind on their back after beating Tampa on the road last week.
Yeah, you certainly like to think so. Carry some momentum forward. Hopefully, this isn't a game where you're going against a non-conference opponent, obviously non-divisional opponent as well, but that just perhaps doesn't have your attention. You come home, you think, well, New England, they may be without their starting quarterback, Mac Jones. We're just going to roll, take care of business. But certainly with the defense that they throw out there, and with I would say the best coach of all time, and Bill Belichick on the opposing sideline, you're going to have to mind your P's and Q's and be ready to play a full 60-minute game, I think, on Sunday. So, Dane, we're going to get into this, including offensive and defensive key matchups here, but why don't we start with the injury report? And I know there wasn't anything significant. It didn't seem like. Obviously, Jair Alexander missed all of the game last week, but was able to return in a limited fashion on Wednesday. He did not practice today. So, Dane, what's your concern level if Jair's out? Do you expect? I know it's early here, Thursday night, and we don't have the benefit of tomorrow's practice, but is it truly a coin flip in your mind, or are you kind of either way? The fact that Jair was able to come back, albeit in a limited fashion yesterday on Wednesday, a good sign for whatever this injury is most likely not going to be long term, even if he misses a week or even two before he's out there on the field on Sunday.
Yeah, my gut tells me that if it's week 17, we're playing the Vikings, trying to make win the NFC North. Jair's playing. It's week 4 against a Patriots team that might be, without their starting quarterback. We might not see Jair this week, but I don't really have a lot of concern about it being a long-term injury, Wags. Now, that being said, these soft tissue injuries are always something to be a little bit nervous about. All the more reason, I personally don't think Jair goes this Sunday. He was part of the jog through on Wednesday. Didn't throw the pads back on when we got pads back on today. So that's an indicator to me that he's feeling okay. He's feeling good enough if he needed to press it. But it's too early in the year. You don't want to lose a stud like Jair Alexander because you push him back a little too early. So I think the Packers are going to be a little extra cautious this week. And we might not see him in green and gold on Sunday, but probably the following week in week 5, I wouldn't be shocked if Jair's back.
Yeah, and then of course the other a couple other guys to highlight here. David Bakchiari didn't practice today, but it seems like this is quote unquote the plan to give him days off during the week. And basically, every coach that stepped up to the podium for a press conference so far this week is already talking about ramping him up, not guaranteeing that he's going to be ready to play the whole game. So we might still see a rotation with David here for, at least this week and kind of see where we're at moving forward. But there doesn't seem to be any indication that there was any issue, setback whatsoever. So David, as far as we're concerned, is a definite go here for Sunday, which is an interesting thing because as early as a week ago, Dan, I think we were both wondering, when is this guy going to play? And all of a sudden he was out there last week, and it definitely looks like he's going to be playing this week as well.
Yeah, it happened fast. A little faster than I had thought it was going to happen, but it happened fast, and it's good to see. Wouldn't be surprised, Wags, if we continue to see a bit of a rotation this week with Yash and David Bakchiari. It remains to be seen how long that goes on for. One that kind of popped out to me on the other side, Alton Jenkins, missed practice on Wednesday, was a limited participant today. He's trending in the right direction, I think, the fact that he was able to be a limited participant today. So I don't hold any major concerns there. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Alton back there at right tackle and then Bakhtiari and Yash rotating at left tackle this week.
Yeah, and that could be as much as just a guy coming off not playing a lot of football, played 2 full games, just give him an extra day of rest. So we'll keep our eye on that, I think, certainly tomorrow and heading into the Saturday to see if there's anything to be concerned about there. But and then the other news, Christian Watson back as a limited participant the last couple of days. So he seems to be trending back in the right direction as well. So with him, it's a hamstring. And so we'll see if he's able to go on Sunday or if it's going to be another week or 2 for him as well. But if he's able to get in a full practice tomorrow, I would expect that he'll be out there on Sunday. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that. But I'm not.
And I hope he's able to go, Wag. Sorry to cut him out. I mean, I really would like to see Christian Watson get back out there. You don't want to see a guy's rookie year kind of get marred by injuries and, on and off the field. I think he can put it together this year and have a real impact, but he's got to stay on the field. So I'm really hopeful that he's able to make a return here on Sunday at home.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the matchups later, but he's a guy that you could really use his speed. That's another component we talked about in the post game recap of last week's game. Is we're missing that downfield threat, I think, and you and I both believe that Romeo Doubs can give us that if they'll give him the opportunity. But I think with Christian Watson, clearly he's the guy that can stretch the field against these defenses, and with a defense like the Patriots, that would be a sorely needed weapon. I think that would really just open some things up potentially. So, Dane, on the Patriots side, I already mentioned Mac Jones. Looks like he's trending to being out. I know Coach Belichick has been saying that he's day to day. I don't really believe him. I think that's some patented Coach Belichick press conference talk right there.
Yes.
But what are your? Do you have a different read on that? Because I don't think we're going to see Mac Jones on Sunday, and that's a pretty significant loss for this Patriots team because they've struggled a bit offensively already on the season, and if they're going to be without Mac, I think that's going to add another level of difficulty from their perspective to try to come into Green Bay and be competitive and steal a win.
Yeah, I saw the injury. He's not playing this week. I think that this is classic Bill Belichick. It does them no good or any benefit to mention that he's going to not be playing yet. So why do it? Belichick loves to keep the cards close to the vest, but I'd be shocked if the Packers are game planning for anybody other than Brian Hoyer, the backup quarterback at this point. That being said, if Mac Jones miraculously is able to play, he's kind of playing on one leg against a pass rush that I would not want to be playing on one leg against. So, either way, I think it plays into the Packers' hands a little bit, but at the end of the day, I don't know how Mac Jones is able to go this week. At Lambeau, I just don't think it's realistic. You might hear this all the way up to game time. He may even travel with the team and make it look like, hey, he might be playing. I don't think Mac Jones is playing. I think we're getting Brian Hoyer, the long-term veteran quarterback, this week against the Packers.
Yep, absolutely. So, Dane, any other injuries from either side that you wanted to touch on?
Wags, let me look. I'm looking right now. I mean, a lot of the Packers, fortunately, have been pretty healthy. Mercedes Lewis, did not practice, but that's a classic veteran day off. One guy that I am looking at as well, actually a couple guys over in New England side, Lawrence Guy, their defensive lineman, he's had a shoulder injury. He did not practice the last couple days. That could impact their run defense a little bit. And then the other one, he did not play last week, was Kyle Duggar, their safety. And with him not in last week, we saw the Ravens pretty much exploit the safeties for the Patriots an awful lot and kind of pick on his replacement. So if Duggar were not to go again this week, would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers follows that game plan from what Baltimore did. So just kind of keep an eye on Duggar. But at this point, limited participant 2 days in a row. I'm guessing he's going to play. And he's a big addition, I think, to this defense. Not a household name, but a guy who kind of just gets it done. So New England would get a benefit if Duggar's able to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Dane, should we transition then into key matchups? Why don't we start on the offensive side of the ball this week? And this is certainly a game that, just like, again, any other game, the Packers would like to get the running game going. If I'm the Patriots, on the flip side, I would, Coach Belichick, his scheme is always to try to take something away. And I wouldn't be surprised if he keys on the running game. And as crazy as that is to say, with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, if he looks at this and says, honestly, if we can shut down the running game like the Bucs were able to do in the second half of last week's game, then I don't know if this wide receiver group will be able to do enough to get in sync. So maybe that's his lesser of two evils, and he's going to try to make Aaron Rodgers beat them in the vertical passing game. So that's not something that normally you would think would happen with defenses that are facing the Packers, but that might become a little bit of a theme this season. So, Dane, do you agree with me? Do you think the Patriots will really be keying on the run defense, or if you're the Patriots, would you be attacking this Packers offense in a little bit of a different fashion?
Well, I think that's a great point, and I think that you're right. They're going to try to take away the run. The problem for the Patriots defense, especially over the last few years, Wags, is that the reality is they just ain't the Patriots from a few years ago defensively. And top level quarterbacks, elite level quarterbacks, and you can go back and look over the last 5 or so years, have torched this Patriots defense pretty significantly. Just kind of looking at some of the stats from the last couple of years. And you know what? The Packers wide receiver group, while inexperienced, can still do some damage, I think. And it's going to be a bit of a pick your poison, because I think the Patriots might be a little bit better against the run, but they're going to want to take away the strength, right? So then that leaves Aaron Rodgers against maybe the Patriots' weakness defensively. I just think that the matchups for the Pats is going to be a little bit challenging this week, but I do think they're going to try to take away Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but it's going to be tough, man. It's going to be tough sledding. They've had a bit of a good pass rush, but I think the defensive backs, I mentioned Kyle Duggar, but they have Jabril Peppers is back there, Adrian Phillips, Devin McCourty. They've got some guys who individually have played a lot of football in this league, but I think collectively have a penchant for getting burned at times. So, yes, try to take away the run if you're the Patriots, but at your own peril potentially, because I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to zero in on some guys he can pick on in this New England secondary.
Yeah, and it's early, but for whatever it's worth, the Patriots' run defense has not been all that good through 3 weeks. They're in the bottom 10 in the league. They're not the worst, but they're not necessarily the Pats' run defense or the Pats' defense, to your point,
Right.
that I think a lot of people are used to seeing. So it's going to be incumbent, I think, on the Packers. They're definitely going to want to try to be physical and establish a run. They didn't give up on it last week, even though they weren't terribly efficient with it. So I don't think it's going to affect the Packers' game plan at all. Certainly, if they're having success on the ground, that's going to make their lives a lot easier. But I think it's interesting what choices Coach Belichick and this Patriots coaching staff will have in trying to limit what the Packers offense is going to do. And clearly, they want to get Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the ball. That's the recipe for success. We've already figured out it's not a good recipe if Aaron Jones is getting less than 10 touches. A.J. Dillon, we need him to get the rock, wear down that defense. And I think we're going to see more and more of that as we move forward. Dane, just looking at the offensive line, specifically, I think it's going to be interesting to see. We mentioned this might be another rotation week for David Bakchiari and Josh Nijman. It may not be. I suspect it probably will. And Coach Stenavich, offensive coordinator for the Packers, in his press conference, kind of called out Royce Newman and said, look, we think he's really talented. We want him to be more physical and more consistent. So I ask you, is that a little bit of this might be your last opportunity to be starting if you don't go out there and perform on Sunday, because the plan might be, once this rotation on the left tackle is done, that Josh Nijman kicks over to right tackle and we see Elton Jenkins move inside, and most likely Royce Newman is the odd man out in that scenario. So, Dane, I think that indicates to me that this is one more week of Royce Newman, but he's going to have to really perform to hang on to his job.
And I'm here for it. No offense to Royce. I like Royce. I think he's a good football player, but Josh Nijman should be out there if we're talking about the 5 best players available. We tweeted that out on our social media this week. We talked about it on our podcast last week. Josh at right tackle, Bach at left tackle, Elton Jenkins kicked inside with Runyon and Myers at center is a ridiculous starting 5 in the National Football League. And that's not a slight on Royce Newman. It's just, who does he replace there out of those 5? I think that Royce has a place in the NFL, and I think long-term is a starter for the Packers, believe it or not. But for this year, in this moment, let's go with this 5, and let's try to get the 5 best guys on the field. And I think you're right. Royce is going to play this week. I think the Packers are going to continue to do the rotation at left tackle this week. But long-term, knock on wood, I'd like to see maybe that change made just to solidify the offensive line even much more for the Packers, kind of the meaty part of the schedule as we get into the harder part and against division opponents.
Sure. Absolutely. Dane, what are some other things that you think this Packers offense will do? Is there anything that you think they might evolve with this week, that a new wrinkle that we haven't seen as much of so far on this season? Or do you think this is really going to be another week where they just try to establish the run, get some guys involved in the pass game, and really just impose your will?
Yeah, I really do, Wags. I don't think the Packers are going to get all that cute against Belichick, to be honest. I think that Belichick is a very smart coach, but LaFleur and company understands that they've got a better football team. Just top to bottom, the roster is much more strong in Green Bay right now. I look at what New England has done in their first 3 games. It's a small sample size, but week 1, they were only able to put up 7 points offensively. They gave up 20 The following week, defensively, again, kept a little lower, 14 points, but, and they won that game 17-14 against really not a very good Pittsburgh Steeler offense. Mitch Trubisky led Pittsburgh Steeler offense as their victory, and then last week got smoked by Baltimore Ravens 37-26. So I think this week going in, Wags, Packers, I don't think are going to be doing too many wrinkles. We're going to still see more tight end. I wouldn't be surprised, Wags, if Tunyon continues to get worked in offensively. Somebody that last week we saw him get a lot of catches, not a lot of yards, but don't be surprised. I think that he's a better athlete at tight end than some of the linebackers in New England. I don't know if the matchup is really going to play into New England's favor there. And then you said it, run the ball. The Packers were stubborn last week trying to run the ball with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. And while it wasn't successful, at least they kept at it. And I like that. I think that you need to continue to do that. So going into this week, I think the lanes are going to be a little bit better. I like our offensive line matchup against this defense New England has. So I think we just go full steam ahead. We try to overpower them, keep it simple, and beat the Patriots up front.
Yep, I agree. I think in a way you do want to keep it simple because we've been shooting ourselves in the foot offensively in a few different situations through every game this season. So let's try to build consistency, and I don't think adding to what they're doing is necessarily going to help with that. I think we just need to perform and execute at a higher level with the things that we do well. And quite honestly, you're right. The talent is there to be able to get the job done. I don't think this Patriots defense is still solid. They're not a terrible defense. So I think they're going to win some of these battles. And so I don't expect this to be a game that the Packers offense breaks out and scores 40. And it's just not probably a realistic expectation, unless the defense creates a bunch of turnovers and short field and things get lopsided. But what I would like to see, Dane, is I honestly would like to see a little bit more of a breakout game from Aaron Jones. I think he's performed well so far, and the touches that he's had been extremely efficient. I said it last week, wouldn't have minded if they would have leaned on him a bit more and kind of went with a hot hand, so to say. And so I think this is a really good week to see if we can feature Aaron Jones. I wouldn't mind seeing him top 20 touches. I know you want to keep him, you don't want to overwork him early in the season. But I really feel like Aaron Jones is that explosive guy that could really just open things up for this offense. And I like him as a mismatch this week against this Patriots defense as well.
Yeah, and you've got to think that he's going to be heavily targeted in the pass game this week, right? I thought that last week a little low on the targets. I think this week in the pass game, he can tear up some of these linebackers that New England has. I think that, collectively they're a team unit, New England Patriots, right? That's kind of what they've done over the years. But I look at the linebackers for New England. I look at like a Jawan Bentley and a Matthew Judon, like Mac Wilson Sr. Wags, these guys ain't keeping up with Aaron Jones out of the backfield. They're just not. And I think that that's where Packers get their bread and butter. To your point, offensively, it feels like an Aaron Jones week where he can just torch a defense and maybe have some big chunk plays for this offense.
Yep, absolutely. So, Dane, any other keys offensively against this Patriots defense that you think is important to touch on?
I just like to see Romeo Doubs continue to build off of a really strong last week. It's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Lazard, Alan Lazard, he's kind of a touchdown machine. He's become a red zone target. I think I was reading today that he has a touchdown in 10 of his last 12 games or something like that. Like, dude catches touchdowns. Aaron loves finding him in the red zone. But as a field stretching threat, down to down, I'd really like to see Romeo Doubs continue. He's a guy that last week we highlighted. Every week so far in his NFL career, he has at least a 120-plus yard play for this offense. I'd like to see that continue this week. I think Aaron Rodgers is taking notice of that. So, Wags, what I don't want to see is kind of a quote-unquote letdown game from Romeo where, he has one or two catches and kind of disappears. I'd like to see the Packers continue to mix him in, and I'd like to see him get that opportunity because I think that he can really be a contributor down the stretch for this team.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. And there's no reason to try to put any limitations on what he
None.
can do based on performance that he gave last week. I think let's build on that and not to put extra pressure on him, because I certainly don't expect him to go out and get 10 receptions every week from here on forward. But are there some different things that he can do to contribute out there on Sundays? It's to your point, it would be nice to see if they can utilize him as run a post route, run a seam route. Let's
Yes.
see what he can do to perhaps win some of those matchups, and
Yes.
so that could be a way that he can contribute to this offense as well. So, Dane, I think let's take a break here and hear from our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings is the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And of course, right now, with football season in full swing, we're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do.
Legs, if that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped up same game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. With payouts bigger than ever, why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped up same game parlays once per game day all season long.
That's right. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code TPPN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code TPPN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. So, Dane, then transitioning now over to the Packers defense against this Patriots offense. If they're without Mac Jones, where do you even start if you're New England? I'm just curious, what are you going to try to do to gain any traction with this offense this week?
I don't know what they do. Just point blank, this Packers defense is rolling right now after coming off of last week. Wind is in their sails. They played really good football. This is a swagger type game for this Packers defense. I think this is one of those attitude games for Packers defense. This is where they can start to put their name on it, so to speak, and win one at home and show folks, what's going on in Green Bay and what they're building defensively. It's one of those games, even if Mac Jones plays, but if Mac Jones doesn't play, Wags, this could be extremely tough sledding for Brian Hoyer and company. I don't know if the New England offense has the weapons to really put up. I said it already. I think they scored 7 points the first week, 17 points the second week, 26 the third week, but not necessarily against the best defenses in the league. I think this Packer defense is going to be opportunistic. I think they're going to be swarming, and the strategy is going to be very simple. Absolutely overwhelm the quarterback. If it's Mac Jones on one leg, overwhelm Mac Jones. If it's Brian Hoyer, overwhelm Brian Hoyer. I think that's what they're looking to do. Pin your ears back, hit the quarterback, make them uncomfortable. You're going to win the football game.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I'm going to answer my own question, and you're going to see a lot of Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, and honestly, if I'm the Patriots, I'm going to try to just make this as low of possession game as possible. Give the Packers offense the fewest number of opportunities possible. Just try to run the clock and hope that they can take advantage of a mistake or two and stay in the ball game. And just all of a sudden it's the fourth quarter and it's a 3-point game. That's what I would try to do if I'm the Patriots. And quite frankly, it's easier said than done, but we've seen that strategy work at times, especially for whatever reason in home games in the past against teams that should be on paper a little bit overmatched against the Packers, and it just keeps the Packers offense out of a flow and out of a rhythm. So if I'm the Patriots, regardless of who's at quarterback, I'm not going to put the game in their hands. I'm going to be just fine handing the ball off, get 3-4 yards of play, get a few first downs when you can get them, see if you can get field goals, see if you can take advantage of a downfield pass or two, take a few shots and see what happens. But outside of that, just try to keep this a ball control game, a field possession game, and just hope that your defense can keep it close. So it's not an exciting strategy, but it's one that I fully expect the Patriots to try to deploy against the Packers on Sunday. So, Dane, the question is, as you so eloquently put it, with the way that this Packers defense is rolling, is there anything in particular that Coach Barry can do to counter that so that they're able to just take advantage of the talent disparity that they have, and really try to continue to shut down opposing offenses, and in this case, New England's offense this week?
Yeah, no, I look at it, Wags, and I've got to think that this Packers defense is going to continue to roll out the two down lineman, four linebacker, five DB look, that nickel look that they really have been liking to roll out. I don't care if Jair's in or not. We saw a ton of it with Keyshawn Nixon last week. If it's Nixon again, it's Nixon again. And I think that these two linebackers that the Packers possess in the middle of the defense allow for them to do that no matter really what offensive formation the Patriots try to roll out. If they're trying to play more of a game, run the clock kind of game, as you mentioned, and very likely seems like a Belichick strategy to me, is keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, right? That seems like something Bill Belichick would love to do as much as possible. But with the athleticism we've seen from our linebackers, and if we can see another performance like we did last week out of our defensive line, holistically, collectively as a defensive line, then I think it's going to be really tough going for this Patriots team. I look at Stevenson as probably their X factor in New England. He's a guy who can catch the ball smoothly out of the backfield. He's really dominated the third down possessions and catching the ball. They might try to use him as a mismatch, but I think with the two linebackers we have in the inside, Wags, it's going to be that much harder to go. Kenny Clark has had a masterful year this year, pressuring the quarterback, stopping the run, playing a ton of snaps. But if we can continue to see output that we saw last week from Kenny, from Reed, and from Dean Lowry and TJ Slayton and others along the defensive front, it's just going to be really tough for New England to capitalize or maximize the snaps that they have. And if we're getting New England into second and long, third and long, that's just going to be a recipe for disaster for the New England offense. And I think that's what the Packers are going to look to do, is really enforce their will, enforce their two down linemen, win at the point of attack, keep their linebackers out there. It gives the Packers an opportunity to play the run extremely well, but also drop into coverage with Walker and with Devondre Campbell. So look for the Packers to do that. It's their best guys out there. It's their most athletic guys out there. They're stout enough to stop the run, but they can also drop into coverage.
Yeah, should we talk just briefly about this pass receiving core? It's 3 weeks in a row of the Packers defense. It's not exactly facing a murderer's row of receivers. They've got some speed guys. You look at Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, not household names, or certainly not going to be top end receivers, but can beat you if you're not staying in front of them. So I ask you, is there going to be situations where Packers may want to try to focus more on the pass game, knowing that this Patriots team probably isn't going to be super efficient? They're not going to beat you in the red zone, more than likely. And it's going to be tough for them to maintain consistency all the way down the football field. So it'll be interesting to see what Coach Barry draws up for a game plan this week. Mm-hmm. But you're so right that the defensive line needs to build on what they did last week. And let's go and see if they can continue to put up that type of level of performance, because if they do that, I'm not giving the Patriots offense much of a chance to put up points this week. Dane, one other thing I want to talk about is turnovers. So we forced a couple last week, fumble recovery specifically, and that's how we've gotten our turnovers this year, aside from one Jair Alexander interception. You can't really predict turnovers. I do understand that, but could this be a week where if we're able to turn the Patriots over, things could get a little bit ugly in the Packers' favor.
Yes. Yes. Short answer is yes. I think that that's absolutely accurate. Last week, Aguilar had a really good second half for New England, but then in an important moment put the ball on the ground. And, this is a team. I've seen Devontae Parker do so as well. Good football player. He's a guy who, catches the ball. He's a big play receiver at times in his career, but also I've seen him put the ball on the ground back when he was in Miami. So this is a defense that I think is going to look to be opportunistic against an inferior opponent. And it goes back to the quarterback as well, right? I think that this is a week where the defense should be able to completely outmatch whoever the quarterback is back there for New England. But if we're talking Brian Hoyer, I just don't see a scenario. I think the DBs are daring Brian Hoyer to test them. I think that you know what I mean? It's one of those weeks where we're going to get a rush. And I think the Patriots, probably the strongest point of their offense so far this year in their young season has been their offensive line. They've done a solid job overall of keeping the pocket clean for the quarterback, with a couple exceptions. But that being said, when you have a guy that's as, he's experienced but hasn't gotten a lot of game experience in a heck of a long time back there, I just don't think that he's going to be able to make all the throws that even a Mac Jones is able to do. And this, Wags, is where these DBs are going to be opportunistic. Rasul Douglas and Stokes are like licking their chops, wanting to step in front of a crossing route. You just know that that's what they're looking to do. And if we can get a little bit of a pass rush going to make the quarterback uncomfortable on top of it, I think this defense could feast this week.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, and this isn't me being overly worried about this matchup, but how many times over the years have we seen, journeyman backup quarterback come into Lambeau and, give us fits for 3 quarters, and we're pulling our hair out wondering why are we not able to, pull away from this lesser talented team. So, I don't expect that to happen. I'd be disappointed if it did, but certainly, these guys have talent. They're in the NFL for a reason. And so with lack of tape or recent tape on Brian Hoyer, I think we'll have to be ready. You have to make sure that you respect the opponent. And, he showed some promise earlier in his career. So he's got the ability, Dane, but to your point, when the chips are down, I really don't think that this is a matchup the Packers should struggle too much with on Sunday. Dane, anything?
Brian Hoyer is. Brian Hoyer is the same age as we are, Wags. So the early part of his career is quite some time ago.
So is Aaron Rodgers. So I guess and Tom Brady's older. So I mean you're right, but I don't, with a quarterback, I don't know how much that matters at this point. Dane, anything else defensively that you want to touch on? I think the turnovers is so huge, though, to me. And Quay Walker already, stripping the ball. That just seems to be something he has a knack for. And you look at like Rasul Douglas. I think he just always has a knack for whether it's an interception or he's in there trying to strip the ball. So we've got guys on this defense that I think that's truly a skill. And so the way that they do that, I think is something that can really force that opposing team into some of those mistakes. And I would like to see us take advantage of that again this week.
Yeah.
All right. So Dane,
I would too.
Sorry. I think it's time. Let's get into discussion on X factors and score predictions here. You stole all the good X factors last week, so I got to tell you. But you know what? Fair is fair. I'm glad we're both, between the two of us, doing pretty well with predicting X factors this season. So I'll put my ego aside and just congratulate the both of us for doing pretty well so far.
Yeah. And this week, since I was able to go last week, I feel like you should be able to go this week, Wags.
All right, I appreciate that. I was just going to do it, but that's so generous of you to offer. So, Dane, I'm going to start on the offensive side of the ball, and this was kind of a tricky one for me this week, but I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb because we don't know for sure if he's going to play. but I'm going to say Christian Watson, if he's playing, is going to be my X Factor prediction this week, because I'll tell you what, if he can get out there, I think this could be the week that we see that long vertical pass connection, and Christian Watson could be the guy that's the beneficiary of that from Aaron Rodgers. So I don't know if he's going to play. I don't know if the protocol should be I should pick up a backup X Factor, but for now, I think I'm just going to stick with Christian. Hope that he's out there on Sunday, and I think this could be a week. We saw it with Romeo Doubs last week as a rookie, able to contribute, and I think he can still have a really good game out there this week. But from an X Factor standpoint, I'm going to go with Christian Watson.
That's great. That's great. And I hope you're right, man. It's a great pick, right? Take the young wide out, and hopefully he's out there and he's crushing. That's what we want to see. I'm going to go with Bob Tonyan. Robert Tonyan's the guy. I think the Packers are going to continue to mix him in. He got a lot of touches last week. This week, though, those touches turn into more yards and maybe a touchdown. I think his first touchdown of the season for Robert Tonyan. So that's what I'm looking at, Wags. Let's go with Tonyan.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that pick. Dane, on the defensive side of the ball, I'm just going to be selfish and go first again. I'm going to go with the guy that I've been a little bit critical of in this early season. I think he's going to bounce back this week. I think he can force turnover, get his hands on the football. I'm going to go with Darnell Savage. I think he can contribute and turn things around a little bit for him. He, as I said in the recap, he hasn't been terrible. I just think he can be better. And so I think this is a good week to go out there, clean up some of the communication issues that have been happening pretty much every week, and really just focus on being that ball hawk that we know he can be. And in a way, I would just like to see us maybe take a few more chances on the defensive side of the ball. I'm not saying that we need to blow coverages in terms of taking chances, but we've got some ball hawks. Let's let them loose. There's not really any weaknesses on this defense that I feel like Adrian Amos and Darnell Savage need to be covering up. Let Adrian Amos kind of be that safety valve, and let's let Darnell Savage, get loose a little bit and see if that helps him play at a little bit of a higher level and be more impactful out there on the field. So I'm hoping we can start to see that. And so I'm going to go out on a limb and predict him as a X factor on the defensive side of the ball.
Wags, I love that selection, and I also like that insight about letting him loose a little bit. I mean, do you think, and normally we don't do this during this portion, but do you think that maybe we have Darnell Savage? I mean, do you think that they've kind of pulled the reins back on him a little bit, and that there's more maybe that he could do on this defense, week to week?
I do wonder, because there's been times throughout his career that he's had to kind of probably play more conservatively than he would like to cover up some of the weaknesses that the defense has had in past seasons. And so I do, say this with some hesitation, given the communication issues. You don't want guys out there freelancing too much. But on the other hand, I think the more that they get in sync and they can, play off of each other, and Darnell Savage can get out there and play with a little bit more flexibility and maybe freelance a little bit. I honestly, he's a guy with his speed. He can close on the football. I got a lot of confidence in our corners in coverage. And so, I just don't think we're going to get beat that often. If you do, tip of the cap. But I'm willing to take my chances. And I think that could be something that would really unlock this defense. You mentioned that with being more aggressive in certain opportunities to blitz guys, be more aggressive in letting Quay Walker and Devondre Campbell really get loose. So I don't think that's exclusive to Darnell Savage, but I think across this defense, I would like to see us continue to stack some of the success that we've had and really get an even more aggressive mindset.
Great. Oh, it's such good insight. What's up, John Dorn and Shadid, David? What's up, everybody, on our chat? For those listening on our podcast the next day, we've got a live chat every Thursday previewing Sunday games at 7:30. So find us on Facebook and Twitter and wherever you get it.
Dane, who's
Yeah.
your defensive X factor? I feel like I just went off on that for a minute. I want to know who you have this week.
It's great. Savage is a great choice, Wags. I'm gonna go way more under the radar, but big on to seeing young guys building off of previous weeks. Last week we mentioned after the game, I was very happy to see JJ Enigbare, the young fifth round pick, getting 20 plus snaps as a pass rusher, outsnapping Jonathan Garvin. This week against this Patriots offense, I thought Enigbare was able to play against the run. He played against the pass. I want to see that continue, Eggs. I want to see the young pass rusher make an impact play this week against the Patriots. He got enough snaps last week that he could make a real impact. 20 plus snaps as a rusher is nothing to sneeze at. So we're not talking about a guy who's getting 5 snaps and you're going, oh, he's got to make the most out of 5. No, he's playing very real, meaningful snaps for this defense last week. If that continues this week, it's because the Packers continue to see something in him. They like what they're seeing so far from a young guy. So I'm going to go out on a limb with JJ just because he's a young guy still working his way into the defense. But if the Packers believe in him, we're going to believe him this week. JJ Enigbare is going to be my X factor of the week as a pass rusher for this Packers defense.
I really like that. And just like last week, we learned something about the Packers cornerbacks with Keyshawn Nixon coming in, and now we feel a lot better about the depth at that position group. That outside linebacker position group, the edge guys, we came into it, there was a lot of competition in camp, but there was still a little bit of a question mark behind Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, right? So having JJ come in, have some success, build some confidence could be a real boost because it's sort of a precarious spot that we're in so far, leaning so heavily on Preston and Rashawn. So I'd really love if that comes to fruition, Dan, and hopefully that's something that we'll see as a development as we move forward.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking for a merciless guy, right? We're looking for a guy he doesn't need to be in world beater pass rushing either, right? If he can play strong against the run and give Preston and or Rashawn a couple snaps off, even in first and second down, it completely changes this defense as we project throughout the entire year. So that's what we're really looking for out of him.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, Dane, prediction time. Let's tee this up, and I apologize, but we should jump in here because I didn't introduce this X Factor segment with Leap Spirits, and of course, Leap Spirits is the official sponsor of Lombardi's Legend. So Leap Vodka has been recognized for excellence by industry experts from coast to coast and was recently awarded Wisconsin's Vodka of the Year. To find Leap Vodka and Leap and Lemonade in a retail store or restaurant in Wisconsin, visit leapspirits.com and click on Find Leap Vodka. So Dane, let's just call this the Leap Spirits score predictions of the week. And so I'm going to tee this up. I'm going to let you go first on the score prediction. What do you have for a score prediction for this Sunday?
I have 31-17 Packers. I think the Packers defense either gets a defensive score or a couple very short fields for the Patriots. I also think that the Packers special teams continues to step up in week 4, allowing for the Packers to have some short fields. It's going to be a tough battle in the first half there, as is the NFL. But I think the second half, the Packers lean and they weigh on the Patriots. I think Aaron Jones early, but late in the game, it's an A.J. Dillon kind of game, and the Packers just push the Patriots around. They get gassed up here at Lambeau Field. It's going to be a mid-60 degree day, Wags. It's fall, it's Lambeau, it's football season, but the Packers get some points from their defense and they win this game again. 31-17 Packers win.
Wow. So if they get points from the defense, I think it's going to be a big day like you're predicting. I'm going to go 23-10. Honestly, I just don't see how this Patriots offense puts up more points than the Buccaneers or, the Bears aren't good either. But I think 10 points is a kind of a good target for this defense to put in for another performance. I don't want to put unreasonable expectations on them, but to me, this is a solid Pats defense. It's not great. It's not one of their better ones, but it's good enough against this Packer offense that hasn't been terribly consistent is, I think, a fair way to put it through the young season. That I don't see the offense going out and putting up 30, 40 points either. So I think it will be a fairly low scoring game. I think the Packers probably are ahead comfortably pretty much the whole game. And maybe the Patriots score late, and that makes this a 2-score game. But I don't see this being real close. But it could be a little bit of a grinded out, lower scoring, 23-10, or 26-7 type of game is more what I am expecting this Sunday.
Great predictions. We got predictions in the chat. Looks like Shadid says 27.
Not very exciting, but
that's all right. No, it's good. Shadid on the chat says 27-17, so kind of splits us a little bit. I like it. I mean, I think that Packer fans this week are coming in with high expectations and expectations that we're going to win the game and we're going to take care of business. That's what we want to see, right? At the end of the day, I want to see this Packers team in control this week. And I also want to see them, when they do deal with adversity that happens, it seems like in every football game Packers play, I want to see them step up to that challenge and keep playing, keep moving forward. That's really important this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, to me, like, the ceiling is, if they score defensively, it's like 31-3. That's like the ceiling as I see as a performance. And that's not, I don't know if it'd be realistic for me to predict that as a score, but this is a game, honestly, without, especially, even like you said, even if Mac Jones plays, he's not going to be 100%. This should be a game that the Packers control pretty comfortably. I look at it as a very similar opponent to what we faced with the Bears a couple of weeks ago from a talent standpoint. So it shouldn't be a game that we struggle or let this team hang with us for a full 4 quarters.
Wags, I'll tell you what, if we can beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in back-to-back weeks, I'll feel pretty good about where we're at. It'll just be enjoyable for me as a Packer and as a football fan.
Yep, absolutely. So, Dane, I think that wraps it up here for tonight. So, folks, thanks so much for joining us here this evening. Looking forward to Packers Patriots Week 4 on Sunday. Until then, be legendary and go Pack go.
Go Pack go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack go. Ain't showing no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will